So that was the one that just lifted off. This is called Apollo. And this thing is standing up straight on the launch pad. It's about as tall as the Statue of Liberty. Only 3 astronauts can ride in the very, very top of it. And because of that, all the rest of it is filled with fuel, and it's filled with chemicals. When you see a launch going up and you see all that smoke coming off, that's really not smoke from fire so much as it is smoke from the chemicals that are being used to keep it from blowing up. Okay, they're coated with special material. When this one goes up as stage 1, it goes into the air for about 40 miles. That's about driving from here to Kingwood back to your school in 2.5 minutes. And after 2.5 minutes, it's completely empty of fuel, the first part, and it falls off and it falls into the ocean. And then stage 2 takes over. And I'll show you stage 2 engines in a minute. But just come down here and look for a second. You can see it's got the Apollo 1, the banners that are hanging. The picture at the bottom, shows the what the mission is all about. Their mission was not to go to the moon. Their mission was the Earth and learn how this affects them. Okay, so that was their mission. And you can see there's the 3 astronauts there. There's training in the command module. You see where he's in the swimming pool. That's actually very important training because that thing lands in the ocean. And they have to make sure that they predict where it's going to land correctly so they can pick it up safely. Well, you see where he's sitting there on the side of it? That's that door that opens in. And that was changed for the rest of the missions. After Apollo 1 went off, then, or did not go off, 7 was the next mission. And I think it was about 1969 or 70. I can't remember the exact date without looking at it. But it was a successful mission. So Apollo 7 went up. They orbited the Earth. They got to know what it felt like to be in space for that long. Before, I think only an astronaut had only been in space for a couple of days, maybe a few hours, and that was it. So they really didn't know that much about how it would affect the human body. So, fun fact, my neighbor was the 6th woman astronaut chosen to go into space. Her name is Shannon Lucid, and she was in space for like 6 months, I think, when she was very young, and now she is having some back problems, and they say it's due to her time in space. So it does have a long-term effect. You might have heard about the twins, Mark and Scott Kelly. Scott Kelly was in space for a very long time. They're identical twins. So they're doing studies on them to see how his length of time in space affects him. Mark Kelly was also an astronaut, but he didn't go to the space station and stay for a year like Scott Kelly did. Okay.
When you're in space, doesn't it like also mess with your brain, making you think stuff will stay floating?
I'm not sure. I can tell you this: my neighbor is like in her 80s, and she's one of the sharpest people I know. So,
there's also like withdrawal. Like whenever you're in space, like stuff would float. I think whenever you reach Earth again, you'll still think everything will float.
Oh, really? I've never heard that.
Yeah, there's actual people that like whenever they re-entered Earth, they like kept like trying to put stuff in the air thinking it would float.
Interesting.
Holy crap, this is huge.
Now, we have another group that's visiting, so when we get to them, we'll kind of just make a line and go around. This is all stage 1. This is that part that is used up in 2.5 minutes. And it's called stage 1. This would fall into the ocean.
America!
Now, your rocket ship, Artemis, works on the same principle, but I believe it's got booster rockets to get it out of Earth's orbit.
Access door.
Is this like a replica, or is this like is this a replica, or is this like?
This is actually a real rocket that was never used. That's a very good question. Let's move up a little bit so we can get beyond this group.
What's a Ford Access store?
There were 20 of these rockets that were built in the late 60s and 70s, but only 17 were used. Because people lost interest in the space program, but also the Vietnam War was going on at the same time, and they wanted to end the war, so they focused some money on ending that war. And that has happened in several instances between the government and NASA. NASA is a government program, so they have to work closely with the government. So we're going to go past. Oh, and when you pass this is stage 2. Notice that the engines are smaller.
Whoa.
Stage 2 will get you into space, but only just into space. In fact, when stage 2 is out of its fuel, only 6.5 minutes have passed since this one is gone. And when it's out of fuel, that one is so close to Earth's atmosphere that Earth's gravity grabs it, pulls it back in, and it burns up in re-entry because the protective coating is all gone. And it was designed that way so that they could predict where it was going to land, so it wouldn't land on somebody's house in Florida. They chose Florida for launch because Florida is surrounded by water. Okay. Now let's sneak past these.
What is a Ford personal access door?
Yeah, no problem.
Excuse me? When I was reading stage 2, excuse me. When I was on when we were talking about stage 2, I saw like a Ford access.
What, baby?
Ford personal access door.
Say it again.
It's a Ford access personal door.
Say it again.
Ford personal access door.
The Ford. Oh,
Yeah.
does it say that on there?
Yeah.
I am not sure.
It's probably where the fuel goes.
It's just to put fuel and chemicals in.
Makes sense. Stage 2. Huh? Stage 3.
This is actually the third
Know it.
stage. Now the third stage is used to get us around Earth, maybe once or twice, and then it pushes us toward the moon. It puts us in the right trajectory. Do any of you play Angry Birds, or games like Angry
Once.
Birds, where you have
Barely
to
played it.
predict where something lands? That's called trajectory. That's actually a good science game because you're having to measure how fat the birds are and what the pigs have put all around the stuff that they're trying to get
Bad
to,
pigs.
right? All those things. And you have to predict that. Well,
It's also like the
called
game Bad Piggies.
trajectory. And you also have to predict what angle you need to shoot that bird at so that it can free the other ones, right? Okay, I know a little bit about Angry Birds,
Well, they
but
also created
that's what they had to do with this. They had to make it so that each section did what it was supposed to do. This one, when it was finished, when stage 3 was finished, it would float off into space. So what your job may be, if you become a NASA employee one of these days, your job may be space trash man. Okay, you've got to go out there and collect all the trash and things like that because there's a lot of debris that's left. Eventually, if it's close enough to Earth, it will come back down, and that's not good. They have to predict where that's going to land too. Now, let's keep going.
Well, there's also the same company.
We're going to go over there in a minute. But
I know.
what?
The same company that made Angry Birds made Bad Piggies, where you have to basically build.
Say it again.
The same company that made Angry Birds also made Bad Piggies, where you have to build.
Oh.
So you can build the same thing.
Well,
It smells like new rocket smell.
now, this is not the Death Star. This is where that fuel and
It's the Death Star.
held. And I have to tell you, yes, I was an elementary school teacher. I was not a rocket scientist. So I don't know what all the wires and things are for. All I know is everything on here was made specifically to get the rocket and the astronauts into space safely and get them home from space safely. A lot of these things that you see, the tubes and everything, they're not just for fuel, but they're for those chemicals that help to keep it from exploding. Okay? So that's very important. Now, the last three, oh, this section right here. This is where the lunar module will be held. And we obviously don't have a lunar module. What happens is when it's time to getting the lunar module, which means moon, right? Lunar means moon. They would turn the entire top of it around and detach from this, and the command module would connect onto the lunar module. The astronauts would stay there. They would take the lunar module to the moon. Then 2 astronauts would get out and go to the moon. And one had to stay behind and make sure they got back safely. So one thing that I want to point out to you on YouTube, I love YouTube. It's got so many good videos. There's a guy named Jared Owen, and he does some really, really good videos on space. If you want to know exactly how Apollo works, he can show you much better than I can with these big things. He'll show you it actually going into space. And there's like 3 or 4 really short videos that I encourage you to watch them. We may have some about Artemis now, which is your spacecraft. So let's go look down here.
Sorry. Whoa. That nearly touches
Yeah.
the wall.
These diagrams, if we had time to go through all of these different diagrams and read them, they would tell you about how all of this works and about how the service module, that silver thing right there, that's this right here, the service module would carry the lunar module, and it would go around the moon. The astronauts would get in the lunar module, detach, they would go to the moon. Then they had to predict when they would lift off so that they could meet up with the command module. If they didn't meet up with the command module successfully, they were done. They couldn't get back. Now, this part shows you the command module. That's actually that rusty looking brown thing up there. That's actually where the 3 astronauts ride. Okay?
Knew it.
And this part up here is the launch escape system. I
Nearly
think I
hits the
mentioned
roof.
that outside.
You did.
That part was only used if they had trouble during launch. Otherwise, it would fall off when stage 1 fell off, and it would go in the ocean too. Okay, so that's the launch escape system.
That's a bad idea.
So the door to this that opens out now is up on the top. I wish they
Oh, I
had
see it.
rotated it and put it where we could see it. But
I
they
see it
didn't.
barely.
Now, that film over there is about Apollo 13. Have any of you seen the movie Apollo 13?
Oh.
Yeah, about the near disaster. They called it
Houston,
what did
we
they
got a
call it?
problem.
A successful failure, because they actually got the astronauts back, and they learned a lot about what to do in cases like that. So they did learn from that.
Houston, we've
Now,
got a problem.
here are your astronauts. These are the ones that just went up on Artemis 2, and they came back successfully. They were able to orbit the moon and kind of get a feel for where they were going to put. There's going to be a space station that orbits the moon so that they can do further space exploration. And it was a very successful mission. The pictures were just absolutely beautiful.
Did Apollo 15 do this? Houston, we've got a
When
problem.
this crew goes up, or if they've already been up. I'm really not 100% sure on that one. But
Excuse me?
these are your guys. They're the ones that just went up. Now we're going to go back this way and retrace our steps.
Excuse me? Wasn't Apollo 13 the one that made the Houston, we've got a problem?
Yeah, we're going to go to that.
The Houston, we've got a problem.
They
that-
solved the problem.
Yes.
Let me tell you. Okay, these are the last 3 missions, 15, 16, and 17. more scientific work was done on these because they already knew about how to be in space and what it felt like and what to expect. So there are still things that they have collected, moon samples and things like that. In one of these buildings over here, if you become a scientist that works at NASA, you might be the first one to open these and with your new technology as an adult and discover something new about the moon. That was what that was for. So now let's go around these guys. Now, this shows a picture at launch. And again, all this dust and clouds of smoke, yes, fire, but a lot of it is from those chemicals. This is the stage one that would fall in the ocean. This would break off. Stage two would take over. This is the one that would come apart and be pulled back into Earth's atmosphere. And then stage three would take over. Stage three gets you going around the Earth and pointed to the moon. And this is the only part that goes up to the moon with the lunar module, which I'll try to get you down here to see a picture of the lunar module. There's a lunar module on the Earth. on the moon. This is Alan Shepard. This was our first astronaut in space, human astronaut. This man's name is Rusa, and he was actually a firefighter for the forest industry. He took a bunch of seeds up into space and brought them back. They're trees, native trees for North America. And he brought them back. And now a lot of our trees that we have planted out there in memorial for astronauts are from those seeds. And then we have a descendant of the seeds. We have a little bitty tree, I call him a Charlie Brown Christmas tree, that you'll see when we walk back over to our property. It's a little bitty tree. We just planted it like a year and a half ago, but it's doing really well. So we have a moon tree. Now, here is that faded Mission 13. This is the one that had a problem. This is the one where James Lovell or Tom Hanks, whatever you want to say, he was the one who said, Houston, we've had a problem. And they had a big problem. The service module is where they kept all of their extra supplies, extra fuel, extra oxygen, things like that. They had to have that in order to survive. The only part of this that comes back to Earth is that little bitty command module. That's the only thing that comes back to Earth. And that thing pushed it toward Earth, and they lost it. They lost that to an explosion. And so they had to make some adaptations. They used the oxygen and the power from the lunar module, and instead of going to the moon, they went back to Earth. Okay, so that's what happened. Well, let's go down here real quickly and see Apollo 11, then we'll turn around. Oh.
Are you sure that's your Dukes?
Okay. So this is that famous, the first one that landed on the moon. The others, of course, they had to work up to it. They had to learn how to use all the equipment. But these are the three astronauts that landed on the moon first. Neil Armstrong was the head of this. He was the commander, and he was the first person to step on the moon. Then his friend Buzz Aldrin followed him. Michael Collins stayed back on the command module, and a lot of people said, "Oh, he looks so sad. He didn't get to go to the moon." I heard an interview with him. He was delighted to be where he was, and he had a very successful time getting them back connected. That was the hard part, to make sure the two vehicles lined up correctly so that they could redock and get back to space. But this is that moon suit, the original moon suit, weighed about 350 pounds on Earth. But only about 80 pounds in space. So the technology has changed so much. Their suits are much more streamlined than our company. And there's a lot of good things that come from the inventions, such as Velcro. We use Velcro on everything, and they use Velcro to put their tools on because otherwise they would float around, right? But they also, your GPS systems in your phones was developed by the scientific group at NASA. And your phone is more powerful than the computers that they use to work on those.
He said it's a fast
I'm going to do it.
I'll do it. All the teachers do it.
I can give it to the teacher.
Yeah,
We'll get it up the line.
It's just about, oh my God.
They swap the seats out there. And then they swap back.
Yo, shut up.
Bro.
I was talking about the itty bitties. They're so adorable.
Yeah, you're right.
Maybe they're like
No, I love it when they don't actually know what they're doing, but they try their best.
It's a little.
And they're generally trying to be kind. They're like, here you go, I made you a pizza. Like it's like
that was not me.
he's like, yeah, well, I'm gonna take it and throw it behind me like I ate it.
That was me.
Do you have any more questions? You have a lot of good questions.
What I really was confused about was
What? Say it again louder.
what I was confused about was that
The what?
why does the emergency module thing come off during the first thing? What if something happens to the second? What if the problem happens to the
they
second one and
can't
the third
use
one?
it when they're in space. It won't work.
I know, but
Okay. So.
oh, no, that's the entire recording, I guess.